Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. Baseball time. We've got some Major League win totals for you. We're going to talk some over-unders here, and this is going to be a free play from Cheetah in Preston. We're going to look at the Oakland A's here. The Vegas number is 75.5 wins. And, the Oakland A's every year, until last year, they are one of the teams that are it's insane the way they always manage to do it. They make the most out of the least, both payroll and, the roster that they have. Billy Beane's made some of the, best moves. But you know what? Last year wasn't the year for the A's. And I don't know if it a little bit was because of the year before. He kind of got off script at the trade deadline. Kind of, I want to say, danced with the devil and did what most teams do at the trading deadline when they believe they can win a World Series. And he made some moves that he never normally would make, trying to get it now and salvage a little bit of the future.
Yeah, I don't blame him. They were by far and away ahead in the division. They added, I think it was Jeff Samardzija, Cespedes maybe, to the lineup. They were moves that were supposed to help them, and then they just completely cooled off that last month. They lost something like 20 of 24 or something in the year, and they barely missed the playoffs. But I think it was actually, looking back on it now, it's like, well, why'd you do that? But at the time, it was like the A's do have a chance. Moneyball's gotten you to the playoffs a few times. You've never been able to get over that hump, and they figured that was going to be their opportunity unless something miraculous happens. And that's exactly what happened. They lost a ton of games to end the year, and other teams got hot, and so they weren't able to even get a shot in the playoffs, unfortunately. So
moving to last year, they, obviously it was a down year for the A's. Didn't expect them to fall as much as they did, but a lot of it, had to do with that bullpen. That bullpen was horrendous last year.
Yeah, I have a mental list of things to spew off here for the A's, and if I can't get through all of it for this video, listen to the Beat Vegas podcast tonight. We're going to go into it a little more in depth. But ultimately, they won 68 games. The previous 3 years, they won 88 the year before, 94, and 92. So it's a pretty far drop-off. But it really was historically one of the most unlucky seasons for any baseball team in the history of the sport. There's a lot of articles, like advanced stats and this and that, that have been written. Like Fangraphs is a site that's done a few of them and published them. But ultimately, when you look at season win totals, just a general concept going into the next year, you can't always just look at their previous wins. Mm-hmm. When they had 68, their run differential up until the last 2 weeks of the season was actually like break even. If you're scoring as many runs as your opponent over the course of infinity, you're supposed to be winning about 500 or 50% of your games, so have a 500 record. Well, the A's only had 68 wins; they didn't have 81. And then with about 2 weeks left, I think they finally just kind of caved in, threw it away, and they lost like 10 of 12 or something like that to end the year. But their run differential still was only like minus 30. And so when you look at those numbers, you do the Pythagorean expected wins, they're supposed to win 77 games. And then if you take it a step further, people have kind of turned that into a more advanced stat, looking at the actual sequences of plate appearances and this and that. We're going to get into more of that tonight on the podcast. But it's called base runs, and their base runs wins was supposed to be 80. Which is the most by far by any team last year, the most this century, have a difference of 12 wins, essentially just from unluckiness and variance within a game. And so you're getting 75.5 on a team that was an 80-win team last year, basically 500 baseball. They added last year, Mark Semion's their shortstop, younger guy, I think he's 24. He had the second best WRC, which is weighted runs created, out of shortstops. But his defense was horrible. He, through the first month of last year, had 16 errors. He was on pace to set the record for most errors by any individual player. They hired Ron Washington, who wasn't a manager anymore for the Nationals. He came in, helped him with some fielding. They eventually hired him full-time to be the third base coach. And he only had 19 errors after that first month till the end of the season. So his defense got better. He's a great bat to have, especially at shortstop, a position that usually doesn't have that advantage. So he's, the growth, another year for him. You have Danny Valencia, they added at third base. They got late from the Twins last year. He's a guy that can hit 290, 300, hit 20 home runs. Billy Butler's a guy that I think a lot of people came from the Royals. He just plays DH. Had his worst season of his career. He hit 250. Normally he's almost a 300 guy, a career hitter before that. People think maybe he's washed up. He's still only 29 years old. I think he bounces back. So I think their lineup's better. Not only were they an 80-win team last year, they might even be a few games better than that. So getting 75.5 I know it was a lot to go through, advanced stuff, lineup, personnel, but I definitely think they're going to be winning 76 plus a good portion of the time this year.
I'll throw one stat at you. I won't be devil's advocate in this video. I'm going to give you one that support it. I talked to my good friend, and I do his radio show a lot, Chris Townsend. He's close to the Oakland A's. He was the pre- and post-game announcer for several years for the A's, and he reminded me of a stat. They had 35 one-run losses last year.
Oh, that was something else I didn't bring up. Most in 80 years since the 1935 Boston Braves. And that's generally like coin flip one.
Right.
Games.
If you just go 50-50 with those games, you had 35 losses.
It's
that gets you there.
Bad, yeah.
So, all right. Well, there you go. You get an endorsement from both of us on that one. Go ahead and take the over 75 and a half for the Oakland A's this year. And don't forget, guys, if you're new to Wager Talk, we got a signing bonus for you. After you spend your first $12 at Wager Talk, just email support and put your username in the email. We're going to add within 24 hours $50 to your account. You can use that $50 to spend at the site any way you want. That's our way of saying thank you for joining WagerTalk.com. Hey, be sure to check out all of the videos we have and podcasts at WagerTalk.com.